This is Starting Point, a podcast that tracks Guyana's unprecedented growth from all vantage points. Join your hosts, Kiana Wilburg and Fareeza Haniff, as they dive deep into the heart of topical issues.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Starting Point. My name is Fareeza Haniff and I'm joined by Kiana Wilburg. As we promised you in our last episode, we will discuss the appointment of the new cabinet by President Dr. Irfaan Ali. We're going to have some talks about what we think were some shockers and surprises, Kiana.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, it was a packed weekend. And a lot of people stayed up just to see who their new ministers will be. So let's start with you, Kiana. What are some of the shockers and surprises for you?
Well, I was happy to be on the ground, and as some people would say, sometimes you'd hear the old lady say, oh, I clutched my pearls. When I heard that Minister Malik Chan was moved to local government, I was like, what?
You clutch your pearl.
Yes. I know that she is going to be a superstar no matter where she goes, but I mean, she has become synonymous over the years with education. I even remember minutes just after seeing that appointment, scrolling through Facebook, and people were saying, "Listen, man, Priya is education. Education is Priya. Put your back." So I can understand it was a shocker, for many individuals, but I'm sure over time they'll come to realize why that actually happened.
Correct. And as I posted on my Facebook page after the appointment, because again, like you rightfully pointed out, social media was a buzz. And even some members from the opposition benches were like, really? You moved Priya from the minister or the ministry rather of education? But it doesn't matter where you put her, she will deliver. And I think local government and regional development is also a huge ministry. It's a lot of responsibility. And that ministry actually covers all of the schools outside of Georgetown. And it still falls within some aspect of education. And she hit the ground running the very next day she was up in Region 10. And she was dealing with a school that was being built for more than 2 years. It's 2 years behind the deadline. And she read the riot act to the contractors, get it done, or you'll be fired. So the ministry is one that needed some sort of structure and efficiency and effectiveness. And that is what Minister Manik Chan brings to the table. So I understand why she was put there. And I don't see that as a demotion at all. I see that rather as an elevation. She is someone who can bring structure, who can bring effectiveness, and who can bring efficiency.
And I want to add to that point as well, Fareeza. While I agree with everything that you've said, what the government is showing is that they are acutely aware of where within the governance structure needs further tightening and the switching of certain responsibilities, because as you said, she will be able to still interface with what she has become synonymous with.
Correct.
And there isn't that complete separation. So I think that she is going to be a superstar in that ministry. And likewise, I think Minister Parag is also going to be able to show a different side of herself.
Correct.
And she is going to be able to blossom. But what I want to add about the local government and regional development ministry, I believe it is highly underestimated that it is one of those ministries that really connects with the people.
Yeah.
And she is going to ensure that those policies are not only seen, but they're felt. So much to expect.
Yes. And I also want to talk about Kiana Griffith. That was one of the wild card, as they would say, appointments. He wasn't on the list of candidates for the PPP. So now he will be a technocrat minister in the parliament. So he will be Minister of Labor and Manpower. Now, under the Constitution, they can choose up to 4 technocrat parliamentarians and ministers. So Kiana will be one of those persons. An attorney at law. Not much has been heard about him. He's very quiet on social media prior to his appointment, but I've seen a few interviews with him since his appointment as Minister of Labor, and I think the country generally shocked with his appointment. Like, who is this young man? And he is going to be the youngest minister to serve in the government.
And in addition to that, too, while being the youngest, there's a lot on his plate and a lot will be expected of him. And I hope people don't underestimate the mandate that has been given to him, because while he is the youngest, he will now be responsible for streamlining over the next 5 years the 50,000 plus workers that will be needed on the horizon to support the demand for labor, not just from the explosion of the oil and gas industry, but other growth poles that the government will be pushing. So he has a lot on his plate.
Yeah, and based on the interviews that I've seen with him so far, he seems up to the task. He's young, he's energetic, and he is eager to really get down to work. And he too has hit the ground running. As I saw some posts on social media with him interfacing already with some of the citizenry. So I'm really excited to see how he handles the ministry and how he intends to structure it in the way forward.
One of my surprises and pleasant surprises was the appointment of the new Minister of Public Service with an extended mandate, and that extended mandate includes efficiency and implementation. And I think that those two additions are really important, because I have said time and again, and I've heard the vice president say this. We've had guests who've come here and they've made the point that, look, while the infrastructural agenda of the government is commendable, what we need to ensure is that we tighten up on efficiency and we tighten up on the implementation aspect of it. And now you'll have a new czar looking over that aspect, that component. It's not just about rolling out the projects, but ensuring that the job is done and it is done well.
Yeah. So that wasn't really a surprise for me because, like you rightfully pointed out, the president, the vice president, and other officials have been speaking about efficiency. And I think the president on a few occasions pointed to the US. They have a Department of Efficiency. One of the Middle East countries as well, they have a Ministry of Efficiency. And based on the president's thought process and things that he's been saying in the past, that you would have expected him to form a new department per se, or ministry or something within a ministry to deal with the implementation and efficiency. So I expected that to come. But I was surprised with Zulfikar Ali being appointed. Zulfikar is no stranger. He has been in the circles. He was the
strong
president,
diplomatic background too.
Correct, and he was also president of AmCham Ghana at one point. So he also brings a lot of experience to this ministry already. It's just a matter of seeing the implementation of the ministry.
Right.
I also want to talk a little bit about the appointment of Minister Onej Walron as the Minister of Home Affairs. As many of our viewers and listeners know, Minister Walron was the Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce. She is an attorney by profession. She was also a former magistrate. Now, Kiana, while her appointment to that post was somewhat of a surprise, a lot of people did not react too kindly to it. And not because of her intellect or her background, but simply because she is a woman. And that struck a chord with me, and it got me thinking that we continue to live in a society where people do not accept a woman being in such a post. For instance, I was out at the weekend and I was in a conversation with some people, especially men, who were saying that the Ministry of Home Affairs needs a strong, assertive man who will command the respect of the disciplined forces. And all I could have done was shake my head, because you're not criticizing Minister Walron for her background or for what experience she has garnered over the past 5 years being in the government. You are criticizing her because you believe that only a man can command the respect of the disciplined forces. Now, Minister Walron is the second female to head that ministry. I think Gail Teixeira was the first. And I had to let that person know that if you want to argue on a person's strengths and their weaknesses, we could do that. But don't argue based on their gender.
Absolutely. And I came across some comments of a similar nature too. And it was also very disturbing for me, very triggering as well, because we still see these comments being made because it's a fruit of the mindset that a woman is supposed to know her place, and only certain positions she is deemed appropriate to fit. And that's why I'm happy about these very bold and courageous appointments, because it's about time we break certain glass ceilings.
Correct.
It's about time we do away with certain stereotypes. Women deserve to be at every table. There isn't any limit to what she can or should do. And I'm happy that we have this type of representation today. And I'm happy that those aren't the stereotypes that's fueling the decisions at the top. And we are able to benefit from a mindset that sees appointments going in such a way that it's based on performance. And talking about that point about performance, the president, as well as the vice president, they both put the new cabinet on notice to say, listen, you have to perform. There will be continuous assessments. Now you're looking at it like a business. There will be key performance indicators, and if you don't meet those, then you have to make way for fresh blood. You have to make way. And I think the cabinet has understood that, because what I've seen over the last couple of days, ministers are out there checking to see what's going on the ground, making assessments of what's going on within the spaces. And even those who have been reappointed, we see them going back to the drawing board. And I hope that we continue to see that in the next 5 years.
Yeah. I hope so as well. And I want to, as we're still talking about Minister Walron, I want to talk about this Starboard News editorial that was published recently. And they too question whether she has the assertiveness to command the respect of the disciplined forces. And I want to read a little bit about what they said here. Coming from outside of the party and her only government experience being in tourism industry and commerce, one wonders how Ms. Walron will be able to assert authority over what remains an unprofessional police force and problematic fire and prison services, not to mention border security. Presumably, that is why Mr. Ben has been retained as an advisor. They put this in uplifted commas. I will say this, and I don't want to harp on this anymore. The worst thing that you can do is underestimate a woman.
Amen. And on that note, Fareeza, I think we can move to examining the list of candidates. Well, not the list of candidates, but the parliamentary representatives for the We Invest in Nationhood Party.
Right.
Of course, that was announced on the same night that the president was announcing his new cabinet. And what were your thoughts about some of the picks?
Well, some of the faces I expected to go back there, like Tabitha Sarabul-Halley, Dawn Hastings-Williams, obviously Azruddin, and then Odessa Primus, Natasha Singh-Lewis, Duarte Hertzberger. Those are people that we expected to be there. There was a little bit of me that thought Mark France would have made it, given that he signed this agreement with ANOG. Mark France from ANOG, who signed the agreement with WIN, so that they could be partners in the elections. And
Mr. No Diversification in Guyana.
Correct, the one who tried to, drag you but did not succeed. So what I thought that, they would have honored whatever agreements they came to and he would be on that list, but he wasn't. And then I started to think back a couple weeks leading into the elections. He was not in the public domain. He was not seen with WIN candidates or the presidential candidate at that time campaigning. As a matter of fact, I was told that at the last rally at the Marriott Beach, he was behind the barriers. He wasn't allowed inside.
Probably got left behind.
And I wondered why. So he is not here, and I see there's a major fallout with that on social media. Now, the other persons on their slate, I do not know who they are, so it will be interesting to see how they perform in the National Assembly.
Yes, and surprisingly, well, actually not surprisingly, I mean, this is Azruddin Mohammed, he is the leader of the list. I somehow hoped that he would have allowed Tabitha Sarabul-Halley to be the parliamentary lead. And that would have been a feather in their cap to allow a woman in recent time to become opposition leader. But, you know, it is what it is. So he is going to be heading to Parliament as the leader of the opposition. And I do hope that he understands what will be required of him. Because as opposition leader, you're expected to hold the government accountable, keep their feet to the fire. You're expected to ensure that you represent as the government in waiting. So you have to bring motions, you have to bring your questions, and all of those. It's a completely different criteria
Budget.
that you will be measured against. This isn't social media, and you will not have a teleprompter. You'll have to be there to listen to the various presentations, and we will be able to see the extent to which you are able to question and hold government officials accountable. And what I know many individuals will be looking forward to is what will be his address as the opposition leader. That maiden address will be very important. And we will also be looking to see how the two sides will be cooperating. Will there be further dissension? Because as an opposition bloc, you know, we will be watching to see.
For clarity, the two sides will be APNU and WIN.
APNU and WIN. And you also have Forward Guyana, who's that will be holding one seat. So it will be interesting times to see how that dynamic plays out. So it's not something to be taken for granted.
Yeah, interesting times ahead indeed. And I think now we can talk about APNU's list of candidates for Parliament.
Yes.
We've seen Jurita, we've seen Terence Campbell, who will be leading the list,
Right.
as we discussed the last time. Coretta MacDonald, Sherrod Duncan, Saiku Andrews, Dr. Dexter Todd, Vince Roy Jordan, and Ganesh Mahipal, Sharma Solomon, David Hines. You know, those are some of the familiar, popular faces that we know. I don't think I'm familiar with Riaz Zaki Rupnarain, nor am I familiar with Mr. Andrews.
Oh, Mr. Saiku Andrews.
Yeah.
No. So, you know, while it's 12 spots,
But
and
just
I'm
before
sure.
you go,
Oh,
it's,
yes,
it's,
sorry.
it's very.
Go ahead.
It was so weird to just read 12 people from APNU's list. I'm so accustomed to so
Oh,
many.
right. Yes. It really is strange to talk about it in such a really condensed.
Concise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, having to pick 12 from the bunch, from the team, from the army, from the soldiers that you have before you, it can't be anything easy. But I was shocked to see that Christopher Jones was sidelined, Roysdale Ford was bypassed, Annette Ferguson was also bypassed.
These are all fiery people in the National Assembly.
These are all people with proven pedigree. And I want to say, you know, during my time covering Parliament, and I will be there, starting point, will be there to ensure that it's following the discussions and bringing you our insights. So please be on the lookout for that. But I digress on that. Let me return to what I was saying. I really was surprised to see that Christopher Jones in particular was bypassed. And why do I say this? In Parliament, you have a set of rules which you must observe.
He was the chief whip.
And he was the opposition's chief whip. And those are the standing orders. Now, who will they put to be their representative regarding the standing orders to confront an OG, a queen of standing orders, that is in the form of Ms. Gilda Shearer?
Correct.
Right? When you're in Parliament, it's not just about motions and questions and so forth, but it's also knowing how to sharply address your colleagues regarding the standing orders.
And who's in breach of those, and knowing
Exactly.
when they're in breach of it, and what section they're in breach in.
Yeah.
I can tell you, Minister Teixeira can stand without the standing orders and say you're breaching section so.
Yeah, she knows it like the
She
back
knows
of her
it, but-
hand.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be interesting to see who they put there. Maybe Nima Flubes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely.
But
Yeah.
But you know, Kiana, while these persons were bypassed, you see that there has been a huge fallout within the PNC since this list was
Oh
revealed.
my goodness!
You've
Yes,
seen the resignation of 3 people. So, and it's like the exodus continues.
they're on a Jet 2 holiday over there. It seems that way. I'm sorry to say, but they really need to start closing ranks and get a handle on that, because it's for optics. Doesn't look well.
Now, Marvin Williams is one of those who resigned. He's a former member of parliament for the PNCR. Marvin has been with the party for so long. He's had a TV program for many, many years. And at the end of that program, he surprisingly announced his resignation. I think he was the first to announce his resignation after this list was produced. He hasn't really given a reason as to why. And following him was Sherwin Holder. I think he was the chairman. Was he the chairman?
Yeah, I read that. Yes,
of APNU. I could be incorrect with his designation, but Sherwin also campaigned for Mr. Norton heavily during these elections.
Yeah, he did.
I think I could presume that his fallout has to do with not making it back to Parliament. And then we have a Wayne Mason, who I'm not really familiar with.
Same.
But he too played a huge part in the APNU, and he resigned. So, like I said, the exodus continues over in the PNC, APNU.
Yes, and one of the things that I strongly believe is responsible for this is that the leader of the list, Mr. Aubrey Norton, in the effort to rebrand and rebuild, key individuals are not being brought into the discussion to understand the way forward. And I know this because background as a journalist, what I do is to, and even Fareeza as well, we ensure that we cover our bases. And I can say with conviction that many individuals who were hoping to be called and who were hoping for at least some type of explanation on what is the way forward and what role they will serve if not in Parliament.
Correct.
They were not told. And so there is some
They weren't?
No, they weren't.
Like
They
you know,
weren't.
let's say he didn't call in Mr. Holder and say, well, I can't choose you. I only have 12 people, but this is what you will do. No?
So I can't say because that's going to reveal who and who I am.
Okay, let's leave
spoke
that.
with.
Okay.
But I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt that at least there are 6 senior individuals who were not contacted and told of the way forward to say, well, listen, this is how we want you to serve. You're still valued. You're still a valued member of this organization. This is how I see you as part of the broader vision. And in some cases, some of them were not even told that they were not going to be part of the list.
That's sad. So
Yes,
they
it
continue to
is.
operate in a silo.
It really is. And if you're going to rebrand, then you need to start from within. You have to strengthen what's going on in-house. And talking about that too, at his press conference last week, I understand from media reports that he made the point to say, well, you know what, this is not the first time the PNCR in its current format has lost seats to new parties. It happened in 2006 to the AFC, and it happened on the Burnham. So how can that be your starting point? That I'm not the only one who failed. Did he fail then? And they failed before.
So we don't learn from our lessons.
No,
Okay.
apparently not. You can't. I really think that is, a poor place to start. And one of the other things that I want to mention on that is, if you're really interested in the future of this party, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, listen, I am partly responsible for what has happened to this party, for bringing it to its knees, for delivering the worst performance it has in its history. And I have to step down. And these are the reasons why I think you cannot blame everyone else. Can't. And one of the other things that I want to mention just briefly, Fareeza, is there was an interview that he did recently on a program called Sources. And I was just so flabbergasted. And this really supports my point that, the approach of Mr. Norton is to blame everyone else except himself. He said, the results of the 2025 general and regional elections, they were fraudulent. Yet, he accepted where the results show that they're no longer the main opposition. He accepted where the results show that Amanza Walton Desire's party, the Forward Guyana movement, earned 1 seat. He accepted where there were instances that the PPP did not gain ground in some of their traditional communities, the communities that normally vote in favor of them. And he also accepted instances where the APNU made new ground, where they minimally increased some of their votes. All of that you accept, yet the overall result is fraudulent.
It's fraudulent.
I find that to be extremely disappointing. If you believe that there was whatever it is you want to call it, election rigging attempts or what's not, you have a recourse. File your petition.
That entire interview that you reference, I listened to it, all 48 minutes of it, and he contradicted himself so many times in that one interview. At one point, like you rightfully pointed out, he's saying that the results are fraudulent and that they're rigged and the PP rigged the elections. But on the other hand, are you also saying that your scrutineers, your party agents who are at these polling stations are part of that machine of rigging? Do you not trust your own people that you've put there to oversee the process? Mm-hmm. As I am aware, party agents have a list of the electors, and as people come to vote, you strike their names off of that list. Mm-hmm. Can you not do your own verification?
True.
Right? And the recount that he asked for, I think the person who interviewed him, the journalist asked him about the recount, like what was the basis for the recount, because the outcome of the elections did not change. Mm-hmm. And he said, because we wanted to find the discrepancies. And she asked him, so did you find the discrepancies? And he said, yes, many. Yet we have not seen where those discrepancies are.
Just like the SOPs.
Correct. They're still missing since 2020. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, Kiana, he was asked about the letter that he sent to the chair of GCOM asking for a forensic audit and asking for the elections to be voided and for new elections to be held. And he was asked for his reason for doing that if he doesn't know that this has to go to a court. He's like, we know it wouldn't have been approved. We knew that. So if you knew that, why did you send the letter? We just wanted it on a public record.
Wow.
You know, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, so you knew the chair didn't have the authority or the power to avoid the elections or to order a forensic audit, yet you still wrote a letter, and you were part of a plan to delay the inevitable.
But Fareeza, you know what that is? It's called making a mockery of the system.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And when you recall the comments made by the crossovers, I'm sure that you would agree that they have been vindicated.
Yes. Mr. Norton is on record as saying that Gita Chandan Edmond, Daniel Seram, James Bond, and all of the other, Samuel Sandy, Jermaine Figueroa, these are all people, with the exception of Gita, who we interviewed and spoke with. He said that they wouldn't have any impact on the party or any impact on the elections. So what happened now?
What can we say about his impact on the party? There's now, even if you don't want to accept the election results, there's irrefutable evidence now that the APNU can do without him at the helm of the party.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and in that same interview, Kiana, he said he accepted then that they did have an impact. He accepted then, so he's now changing his tune. So like I said, the entire interview was him contradicting himself.
Yeah.
Throughout.
And if they continue on this path, it's just going to be a downward spiral. They'll end up in the same position as the AFC.
Correct.
As I've said before, I firmly believe that they have a way forward if they play their cards right and they are honest with themselves. Because listen, a healthy democracy deserves a strong opposition. It's the only reason why we are making these comments and we continue to do our part to educate. So I really hope that, sooner rather than later, they put the emotions aside and stop trying to make excuses, stop trying to twist what is already a well-known fact, and let's get on with the business of the country.
Now that the new cabinet is in place, the
Yeah.
government is hit the ground running, work is getting done, the country is moving on.
Indeed. So, Fareeza, I am indeed looking forward to Parliament. I think the gloves are going to be off. So we have interesting times ahead, indeed.
Interesting indeed.
So I want to thank our audience for joining us as usual. This has been our episode of Starting Point. See you next time.
Thanks for watching Starting Point. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for critical updates and exclusive content.